and feels that building trust requires consistent engagement and genuine investment into the community outside of election periods and political benefits for politicians, and may view that some people in the Democrat Party use Black Americans to play identity politics.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's just give a moment of silence for such a straight, direct, beautiful, holding no punches type of question. And that's what all these politicians need to answer. All right, so I know I said the last time that Kamala Harris was on Howard Stern, that was probably her best interview conversation to connect with people. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm eating those words. I am eating those words because the interview she did, the sit down that she did with Charlemagne the God and the Heart Radio or whatever. So they had a nice little setup. This was probably the real game changer, because this was real questions from real Black people. Like no bougie Black folks, who think they're better than other Black folks and just want to, ask like some softball questions. Like, these are real people from the hood who know what they talking about. And I am so impressed that they found these type of caliber Black people to confront Kamala Harris. And it wasn't no like, what would you do in the first 90 days of being president? Like, no, what are you going to, like one of the questions, we're going to get into it, was, why does it always seem that you guys are always pandering to the Black vote at this time? But then when we elect you into office, you disappear. There's no more Black talk. There's no more Black conversations, but only when you need to get back into office. I was like, that's my dude right there. Like, it made me, I think I was more proud of the questions than anything. And for Kamala Harris, and she did tiptoe on some pretty key questions, but she stood her ground. And unlike Donald Trump, Kamala Harris is really not really Black. Like, just being weird and awkward, So without further ado, let's go ahead and like always, if you guys want to see the full video, go right here. Of course, I'm not going to watch the whole thing because I don't got time like that. Let me see. I don't have my video. Okay. All right, let's go ahead.
It's the work that we have done, in addition to work that we have done writ large on criminal justice reform.
Okay. Let's take some calls. Let's take some, well, not calls. Let's go to the talkback feature.
My question for Kamala is, why are we, and I say we because my tax dollars is sending the money, why are we sending money to other countries when we desperately need it in our own country for homeless, housing, resources, for whatever? That is my determining factor if I vote for Kamala or not.
That's
beautiful question. Straight to the point. Like, why are you sending my tax dollars to another country for whatever reason, and we struggling at home? How many times have just regular folks asked that question? So let's see how she answers.
One of the reasons the America First rhetoric resonates, because nobody in America would complain about where money was going if American citizens' everyday needs were being met. So what do you say to that?
We can do it all, and we do. So first of all, I maintain very strongly America should never pull ourselves away from our responsibility as a world leader. And that is in the best interest of our national security and each one of us as Americans and our standing in the world. That being said, we also have an obligation to American citizens, obviously, and people who are here to meet their everyday needs and challenges, which is why, for example, we have done the work in the last 4 years of bringing down the cost of prescription medication, whether it be $35 a month for seniors for insulin or $2,000 a year cap on prescription medication. What we have done that has been about putting $17 billion in our HBCUs. I am proud to be the first HBCU vice president of the United States. I intend to be the first HBCU president of the United States. Those resources are about sending them to centers of academic excellence that I know them to be. The work that I continue to do is about increasing access to capital for our small businesses. It is about increasing the opportunity for home ownership, knowing that Black people are 40% less likely to be homeowners in America. We have a history of legal and procedural obstacles to that home ownership, starting with the fact nobody got 40 acres and a mule, to redlining, to issues that this Detroit area and people around the country know to be real. So part of my plan is that we're going to give people a $25,000 down payment assistance to get their foot in the door to buy a home for first-time home buyers. The work that I'm going to do to increase housing supply in America, knowing that that's one of the reasons that rents and housing prices are jacked up, and to work with the private sector, cut through the red tape, and work to build more housing, 3 million before the end of my first term. And I give these examples, and there are many more which I will offer. So, for example...
All right, so she's going to get into, you know, the copy and paste of her positions when it comes to what she's presenting to the American people. So we already know what she's going to say. One thing that I wish she would have done, and I'm going to be as critical as possible to, you know, her answers. I wish she would have gave a little, like, taken a small L in her answer. And what I mean by that is when the caller said, you know, you're giving money to other countries, but we're struggling here at home. If Kamala Harris would have said something along the lines of, you know, we can't abandon our allies because of X, Y, and Z. And that's what, you know, being a world leader does, is they take care of their allies. But we can take care of our citizens at home, and we can do better. You know, you don't have to say like we failed at doing that and we need to do better, but just give a little saying, but we can improve on that. Which means is, I know we kind of been slacking, but give me an opportunity to do better. And I guarantee you that would have went so far with regular Americans. We just want to hear you say that you have not been doing what you can and you're going to now do better. Just give a little. But that's one of the things, like, she just went straight into policy, straight into talking points of, this is my plan, my plan, my plan, my plan, my plan, my plan. Like, just give a little. People want to see honesty and just know that you haven't done all you can, because we know, you know, when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris cut child poverty by almost 50% during, you know, when they got into office, how come they didn't keep that going? And we've seen a glimpse of what the government can do to cut these problems down, but they cut it. They stopped it. Why? You know it's a problem. Child poverty is a problem, right? And you solved it this much, and you just let it, you let that policy dissolve, and it's gone, and no more. So give a little bit. But let's go to 2244. Oh, this is a good one right here. 2244.
I mean, we have plenty of folks who want this, who live in districts where they serve. And this is the point. This gets back to the earlier point about you can't let anybody take you out of the solutions. And maybe this is the point you're making about what President Obama said.
Oh, shoot.
Participate. So let's not.
CEO of New Era Detroit. He wants to talk to you about your blackmail agenda.
Okay, good.
For the black community. Or just your agenda for the black community, period. Zeke, what's up, brother?
What up, though? What up, though? Madam Vice President, Charlamagne the God. What up, though? And welcome to Detroit.
Yes, sir.
It's good to be back.
I like to say the real Detroit because I'm up in here. My name is Zeke, New Era founder and CEO. I've worked on the ground here in Detroit and in black communities all across the country for over the past 10 years, actually celebrating our 10th year this past August.
All right.
In my 10 years of organizing, we played a major role in the resurgence of pride and the change in mindset in Detroit neighborhoods across the city. Mm-hmm. We are not only known for the work that we do here in Detroit, but across the country in black communities, having worked in over 35 cities of the blackest cities in America. Saying all that to say, I'm extremely qualified to sit in front of the current vice president and which can be the next president of the United States of America. As I pose my question to you, I would first like to make it known that I don't have any emotional connections to politicians. I believe that this is one of our biggest flaws in the current political process. I view politics as a business, and America is one of the biggest corporations in the world.
And that's one thing I do disagree about, but, you know, I digress.
With that being said, I'm here on behalf of the business of the black community. With all that black Americans have been through and contribute to the success of America, I feel that there should be an in-depth investigation or evaluation of the lack of resources and current living conditions in black communities nationwide. My question to you is, what's your stance on reparations? We all know that America became great, you know, off the backs of free black labor. How progressive are you on making it a priority and righting America's wrongs? It's understood that you are running for president for all people of America. Asking for specifics for black communities doesn't mean don't do for others, but black Americans are heavily asked to vote Democrat in every election for over half a century with very little in return. What are your plans to address these very important issues and change that narrative?
Thank you, Z.
Very well put together question from Detroit citizens, which a lot of people want to talk about Detroit, but I guarantee you some of these people couldn't last 5 minutes through Detroit. You know what I'm saying? So that was very well put.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for your work. So to your point, yes, I am running to be a president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position. In terms of my immediate plan?
Right there. Whoa. Time out. If I was Charlemagne, I'm like, hey, whoa. Before we move on, can you clarify your answer? Because Jill Stein and a lot of other credible people have already said that the study has been put in and the numbers and the information is already available. So what more do we need to study? Let us know. And then what's the next step after it's been studied? How long is it going to take to be studied? If you're president day one, it takes like a year to study. Then what happens after that? That's what I want to know. Like, stop just saying it needs to be studied. It needs to be studied. We need to look at, like, bro, it's done been looked over plenty of times. Too many times, in my opinion. What's the next step after that? Once again, she got back to politician mode and gave a subpar answer.
I will tell you a few of the following. One, as it relates to the economy, which is a lot of what you have addressed. Look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother, worked hard, raised me and my sister, and by the time I was in high school, she was able to afford our first home. I know what it means for an individual and a family to have home ownership. I also know, in the context of history, nobody got 40 acres and a mule. We have a history of a number of things, including redlining. Detroit knows it well. A history of, for example, something that still exists that I've worked on to address, which is racial bias in home appraisals. And we know home ownership is, black families are 40% less likely to be homeowners than others. And that home ownership is one of the surest ways to build intergenerational wealth, right? Because when you own a home, that's when if your child says, Daddy, I want to go to college, you can say, sweetheart, don't have to take out a loan. I'll take some equity out of the house. Or if your child says, I want to start a small business, same point, right? So my plan includes making sure that for first-time home buyers, they have a $25,000 down payment assistance to just get their foot in the door, because we know folks will work hard, they'll save, and pay that monthly mortgage. Second point is to bring down the cost of housing generally, because one of the issues is we have a housing supply shortage, and so that's about working with the private sector. In terms of our small businesses, which are part of the backbone of the economy of the Black community and part of the backbone of America's economy writ large. My second mother, the woman who helped raise us, was a small business owner. I know who our small business owners are.
All right, and there you go. Like, she's going back into her policies, which if you just look at the policies on its face, you know, take Kamala Harris out the equation, they're decent. You know, be honest with yourself. It's not the worst thing. It's actual policy. People have been wanting policy and what does she mean by this and this and this? If you read the 8.5 pages. If you read that, you're going to get a lot of information. Take the time and read it. She has policy. The question is, do you agree with it? You know, and if you look at it, like she said, it helps Black folks, but it helps all folks. It's not specifically for Black folks. Like, you got to show that you're African American to get X, Y, and Z benefits. It's nothing like that. And, you know, that's, I mean, on one conversation, I do understand, like, you don't want to create something that's going to turn people against you. Look at affirmative action and how people were just going crazy over that, because that's specifically helped Black and brown people. And just everyone was like, oh, that's reverse racism and blah, blah. It's like, you don't want to create a policy that's going to, like, be dead on arrival. And unfortunately, when you slap "this is for Black folks" on it, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to even get off the paper that you wrote it on. You know what I'm saying? So I do understand the strategy of making it for everyone, but it hits the underlying problems that affects 90% of Black Americans. I understand that, you know, so you kind of have to give and take. If you're that person that wants something that's only for Black people, like, that's not going to be for you. So you kind of have to understand the game she has to play. Let's go to 4645. 4547. Guys, let me know what movie that is. Okay, I guarantee you ain't nobody gonna get that. All right.
It's not true.
I know.
Yeah.
Wait,
On
This
either
was a
count.
great question.
she's not mad at you.
Well,
either?
I mean, I don't know.
Man, what's up, Madam Vice President?
doing?
How you doing today? As we say in Detroit, what up, though?
What up, though?
So yesterday I read that there is a new opportunity agenda, a plan for Black men, which includes a proposal of forgivable loans up to $20,000 for 1 million Black entrepreneurs. What would you say to the people that would consider the timing of this proposal as political timing? And how would you speak to the sentiment that support for Black men is only sought out during election cycles, and feels that building trust requires consistent engagement and genuine investment into the community outside of election periods and political benefits for politicians, and may view that some people in the Democrat Party use Black Americans to play identity politics?
Whoa. Let's just give a moment of silence for such a straight, direct, beautiful, holding no punches type of question. And that's what all these politicians need to answer, and give an honest answer. And if it doesn't pass the test of being authentic, get them out. Get them out. So let's see how Kamala Harris answers this question.
So first of all, thank you for your question and for being here. I've been in this race about 70 days. You can look at all my work before those 70 days to know that what I'm talking about right now is not new and is not for the sake of winning this election. This is about a long-standing commitment, including the work that I've done as vice president and before when I was senator and before that. In fact, a lot of what I'm doing that is about my economic agenda and opportunity economy was born out of the work I did as vice president, before that as senator most recently, to get access to capital for our entrepreneurs. The work that I did in the Senate was about getting a couple billion more dollars into our community banks, and then building on that when I became vice president, I created it's called the Economic Opportunity Council, bringing in some of the biggest banks and technology companies to put more into the community banks. And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why, because I have been aware for years, Black entrepreneurs only get 1% of venture capital funding.
That I didn't
Of all
know.
the venture capital funding, only 1% goes to Black entrepreneurs. We don't have the same rates of access to capital, be it through family or through connections, which is why I've done the work of putting billions more dollars and working to put billions more dollars into community banks, which go directly to the community. My work around the $20,000 is building on that and understanding that, I convened, for example, I said this earlier, a group of Black entrepreneurs way before I was running for president in my official office at the White House, to hear some of the obstacles that they were facing. And one of them was what we need to do around getting folks the help to just be able to buy the equipment they need to run their business. And oftentimes we find that when Black entrepreneurs and Black people apply for credit, they're denied at a higher rate than others. Mm-hmm. We have also seen, and the data proves this, that all of the realities also tend to dissuade Black folks and Black entrepreneurs in particular from even applying for credit. So my point is to work on every way that we can approach the issue to encourage people and to invest in their ambition. Because I know the ambition is there. I know the talent is there. I know the innovation is there. And certainly the hard work ethic. So this is not new work for me. And
you should speak to the American Rescue Plan too, because tens of millions of dollars. I know small businesses in North Carolina small Black businesses that got tens of millions of dollars because of that. I don't hear you speak to that.
That's right, and that was from when we first came in. The American Rescue Plan, the work that we have done, the infrastructure bill. Part of that is we made a decision that we were going to increase the number of federal contracts that go to historically underrepresented businesses. This was way before I was running for this, years ago. Mm-hmm. So this is not new work.
Let's go to
and that was beautiful. Like I let that play because that wasn't that was 85% unscripted. Like you can't script a question like that. She didn't go straight to bullet points or talking points. Like she said, hey, I've been doing this a long time. I did this when I was governor. I did this, as soon as I got into the vice president role. Like she was able to explain, I'm not all of a sudden now talking about Black businesses and how to help Black folks. She laid out her history, and it's and I looked up some of it, and it is pretty credible. You know what I'm saying? So that was a beautiful question, and she gets a B- from me on how she answered that. And I love how she said, I know the motivation is there. I know the hard work is there. I know the ambition is there. We just need to help you get past that last hurdle. And that's what I'm here to do. That was probably the best part right there, recognizing that Black folks have everything that they need on the inside. We just got to get what's inside outside and then get these institutions to do what they're built to do. And that's to not discriminate against Black and brown folks. Yeah, exactly. So let's see how much time we got. I think we got enough time for this last question here. Let's see, where is it at? Yeah, here it is. I think this is a pretty good question.
Only got a few minutes. Thank you, Madam Vice President, for having me. Thank you, Charlamagne the God. So as a employee of a mission-driven nonprofit bank, I appreciate the efforts in that bank. I work with Invest Detroit. But as chief storyteller of the city of Detroit, I spend a lot of time dispelling information about the city of Detroit. Yeah. And so I'm sure for those of us who are like me, if Donald Trump doesn't like Detroit so much, he's not welcome back. Now,
but Okay, I don't want to interrupt you.
I don't know
You
if
only got a few
everybody knows
minutes,
what
though.
you're talking about. Okay, go on.
But you can get into it. I just wanted to say that we know that there's been a lot of conversation about growing the middle class, but black men have been taken out of the workforce for a myriad of systemic reasons, from mass incarceration to racial bias, fear-mongering. But we know that black men are not criminals. They are criminalized, and that has taken black men out of the home, has taken wealth out of the home. And so because, especially in a city with such high poverty, I've heard a lot about middle class, but I would love to hear more about stair-stepping from poverty into middle class so they can take advantage of the opportunities and the policies you're talking about.
That's right.
Beautiful, because I hear a lot of politicians, which once again, I don't see it myself because I'm just so conditioned to just hear about middle class, and taxing the rich and the rich and the rich. What about poor folks? There is a poverty line, and a lot of us fall under that. You know what I'm saying? So that was a good question. So let's see how she handles this question. Does she go straight to, talking points, or is she going to speak to people like they're humans?
And that's real. So, for example, the child tax credit.
Talking points.
When we did it, when I first became vice president, we cut black child poverty by half. And when you deal with poverty for a child, that's about the whole family, right? When you look at the work that we have done that has been about dealing with prescription medication, for our seniors, black people are 60% more likely to get diagnosed with diabetes. And when you look at what people are in terms of on the verge of bankruptcy because of medical bills and medical debt, that's very real. So us capping the cost of something like insulin and prescription medication, not to mention the work that I've been doing to ensure that medical debt does not get included on your credit score, because medical debt comes about because of a medical emergency. Nobody invites it upon themselves. And back to the point about history and the reality of life, we also know the real disparities around access to meaningful health care, which are more likely to result in people facing chronic illness and in medical emergency. So my work has been and included working to get medical debt not be on your credit score, so that thing you did not invite upon yourself would not be the reason that you can't get a lease on an apartment or anything else. We have to deal with child poverty. We have to deal with poverty, period. And there are many specific ways to do it, including dealing with getting resources into the community that alleviate the burdens that hold people down.
And once again, I mean, that was a solid answer. You know what I'm saying? She went back to her policies, which is not a bad thing. It's not the end of the world, but she didn't really explain how she's going to help people who are in poverty get to middle class, which, once again, if you just look at the policies, you can see how that could do it. But I think there's a lot of, smarter people than myself who can figure exactly what's needed to get people out of poverty and into, at least, like he said, into the direction of middle class, which I think is going to take a little bit more than just child tax credit, getting a house, like you're in poverty. Like 9 times out of 10, you're not even thinking about getting a house. You're like, you need more basic fundamental help. So maybe she could have added, like, I'm glad you brought that up. I could talk to my team and we can actually, formulate a better plan for that, or add on to it, or just something leaning towards, like, we need to tackle that head on. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't ever seem like you always have the answer to everything, because people know people are flawed. They don't know everything. They don't see everything. They don't have everything solved. So it's okay to be like, if Donald Trump can say I have a concept of a plan and he still has voters, you can come up with something, be like, hey, I'll hit you up next week on a better answer for that. Like, just something to kind of be honest and, not just revert to your talking points, because like I said, like, I would like to see something that tackles poor wages or low quality jobs, because people can't live off of $14, $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour, or at least in Aurora, Colorado. You can't take care of yourself off of $18 an hour. In some other states, in some other cities, that might be well and dandy. But the minimum wage is probably extremely low in those areas. So once again, it's like the underlying issue, at least in my opinion, and let me know if you guys think anything different. I think the wages need to be solved. If we can get that kind of kicked up, then everything else will kind of fall into place. But I can't worry about getting a house if my job isn't paying mortgage wages. You know what I'm saying? Like, I will take the help with the $20,000 or $25,000 to put down on the house, but I can't afford a $2,500 mortgage, which is probably super cheap. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think wages need to be talked about a little more, you know. But other than that, if you guys have any issues with anything that I said in this video, if you think Kamala Harris was just completely whack and trash in this interview, let me know in the Discord. Let's have that one-on-one conversation, or let me know how you guys feel in the comments down below. And like always, let's have that conversation.